Welcome. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Sumbrum. I'm Artistic and Marketing Director at Dance Cleveland. And this morning I'm joined by Kyle Abraham, Artistic Director of AIM by Kyle Abraham. Kyle, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm going to adjust my screen. There we go. So I'm not super headless.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody.
Well, we are so excited to have the company back here in Northeast Ohio. The last time we had AIM was in Akron, actually, at E.J. Thomas Hall a few years ago. And that was with the mixed rep program. But this time we're going to be at Playhouse Square, which is Dance Cleveland's resident company location. And we're so thrilled to have you with An Untitled Love. It's been a long time coming, and we're really excited. So thank you. So I thought to get us started, if you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got into dancing. I know you're originally from Pittsburgh, so not too far away.
Yeah, it's like either your subscribers will be happy about that or very angry.
Depends on if they're football fans, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about your beginnings.
Sure. Yeah, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I started dancing when I was 17. I was a huge kind of rave kid, so heavily involved in social dance. And prior to that, I grew up really playing a lot of different classical instruments while I was in the public school system. And through that kind of rave journey and being a huge Prince fan, I went to go see the Joffrey Ballet perform a program to Prince's music. And that kind of opened my eyes up to so many more movement possibilities than I knew from my social dance world. And I got really excited and intrigued, and my friends were just really supportive and encouraging for me to audition for a high school musical. And my life has been so much kind of surrounded in, around support and suggestion. My high school musical teachers gave me a scholarship to take class the summer before my senior year so I could get better for the senior year musical. And the teachers during that summer program suggested that I go to Kappa, the Creative and Performing Arts High School in Pittsburgh. So I went there half day. And then while I was there, the teachers there were showing me choreographers like Garth Fagan and Bill T. Jones and B.B. Miller, and telling me what I could achieve, and just being so encouraging. So from there, I kind of saw that so many of the dancers from Bill T's company went to SUNY Purchase. So I went to Purchase and I had a wonderful time there, but it's always a complicated journey in college in some ways, but a really beautiful experience, really focusing primarily on choreography while also dancing while I was there. I should say, especially knowing that we're presenting An Untitled Love, that the year before I went to Purchase, I went to Morgan State, an historically Black college in Baltimore, Maryland. And part of the reason why I went there is because my parents and my sister had all gone to historically Black colleges, and they all wanted me to have that experience. Ironically, or not ironically, but it's maybe interesting and fun for your listeners, viewers to know that, subscribers to know that my parents went to Central State University, which is in Wilberforce, Ohio. So their college years were in Ohio. And
that Ohio connection.
Yes, they run deep. They run deep. One of the kind of poster folks for An Untitled Love, her mother's side of the family is from the Akron area.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's not too far from us. Short drive.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's awesome. I mean, there's so many, especially like young male dancers that, like you said, you didn't start until you were in your late teens. And I know we have a really great local dance community here, and to know that, I mean, you are the youngest person to get a MacArthur Genius Award, I think, right? So that's pretty amazing.
Maybe.
To say that you started dancing later in life compared to some dancers, and that's a possibility for people, so that's amazing. So what does AIM by Kyle Abraham stand for? AIM, we always get asked, is it AIM? Is it AIM? What's it stand for? If you're my generation, you're like, oh, instant messenger. But if you're younger, you don't know what that is. So,
I think in the same way that we look at contemporary art or art in general, and I'm not going to say dance because so many people struggle with dance and dance meaning, but in the way that we look at visual art, I think there's so many possibilities for the acronym in a hopefully supportive and encouraging way. And I think we wanted to, when we shifted the name a few years ago, we really wanted to make this space for that. To think about different ways we can use this acronym to stand for so many important things that we as an organization support. So you can just say AIM, you can say AIM. I usually say AIM because it's quicker. We did a presentation once where a comedian was hosting the event. It was like all these dance companies, and he was like, A.M. I was like, oh.
I've never heard it that
way. Yeah, I'm like, let's not do that.
Well, cool. So any acronym, pretty much you'd like people to interpret it their way, right?
Yeah, I think it's fine. As long as it's supportive and kind, we're on board.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit more specifically about An Untitled Love. This was a piece that I saw in studio at Arts Presenters in New York. Gosh, I feel like it was a few years ago now at this point when you first did your first showing, and it was before COVID, right before COVID hit. And it was amazing. I mean, I was in the first row sitting there so up close. And the piece is just so intimate and personal. So being in that small space combined with the choreography itself and the nature of the piece was really special. And I remember leaving there and thinking, we have to bring this piece. It's just incredible. It's funny, now that we've been going through this global pandemic, the sense and need for community and closeness is different, I think, than what it was a few years ago when I first saw the showing. So if you could tell us a little bit about An Untitled Love, what, in your words, what is the piece about, and what was the inspiration behind it? And then also maybe how has it changed or shifted throughout the pandemic, if at all, its meaning to you?
Yeah, totally. I really, for your audience, people that may have seen our last program, I have made a lot of works that, address injustice and address, a lot of the kind of struggles that we have faced as a community. But I really wanted to make a work that celebrates love and how we love. And so when I first started kind of conceiving this project, probably in like 2017, and started doing some of the movement research in 2018, and then working with the dancers shortly thereafter, I really just wanted to focus on that so much more. And the purpose started forming all the more. So it's one of those things that maybe, your subscribers may not be aware, but for a lot of times, a lot of dance choreographers or artistic directors, when they are about to make a work, they have to write a project narrative to start applying for grant funding before you even get in the studio in some cases. So that really, a lot of times that helps me kind of ground myself and kind of center the what and the why. And so for me, knowing that I wanted to use the music of D'Angelo, I really need to unpack that a little bit more for myself. And I started drawing all these connections, especially thinking of the kind of irony of the chronology of the works that I've made up to this point. There's works that start for me in thinking about 1991 to 92, a work like Pavement, or the works that came then after, still looking at 92 to 93 even, and then 94, thinking about apartheid in South Africa. So all of these things kind of become this chronological thing that by the time you get to 1996, 95, 96, which is my first year of college, that's the year that D'Angelo's first album came out. And so I really wanted to unpack that a little bit more. But to make this story just a little bit shorter, because I can be so long-winded, I can say that these ideas and interests around really focusing on love and how we love, and looking at community and celebrating each other was really important and exciting for me. I really wanted to also think about other ways that I could not only honor my parents, which is something I hope I do on a daily basis, but I also wanted to acknowledge those aunts and uncles who may not be blood relatives, but helped raise me. They are very present in a work like this.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that kind of grew up, if the adults were hanging out, I would still be hanging out with them. I just would keep my mouth shut, but just hang out. They were just so cool and so fun, and I loved seeing just their freedom and their joy and their friendship and camaraderie. So that is really at the heart of what this work really is. And I realized we just recently did its world premiere finally.
I know, we were so excited for you.
Finally. But it was one of those things where I'm watching it with an audience, and I realized, I was like, I made a rom-com. Like, and I'm really okay with that, because like, I actually like them. So I would say to your subscribers, this is a wonderful date performance. Like, people talk about like date movies.
Definitely.
This is a date performance.
Yeah, I don't think you want to bring your elementary school kids with you to this one. I think you leave them at home, you bring the husband out, or you bring your boyfriend or girlfriend out, and yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing off color though, if you did want to bring the youngsters, but yeah, it's just I think it's a really fun time. And I think part of that, the other part of your question about the pandemic, I don't really think the work shifted too much, but I can say that like what we were doing as a company, because I'm not one to want to be rehearsing over Zoom. I mean,
hard. Yeah.
I think we all feel like if we don't have to be on Zoom, why be on Zoom?
Right.
But I'm having a good time with you right now.
Yeah.
But I can say that like the notion of rehearsal, especially in like March and April over Zoom, was just really daunting. And I was like, I think I'd rather us come together and spend maybe like 2 hours or so every Friday just talking. And we would do these sharings where maybe on Thursday you would receive a link to watch a movie, or read something, or watch a TV show. And then the Friday, we would spend several hours kind of breaking that down and talking about how it related to the work. And each week, a different company member would be in charge of kind of recommending the thing and kind of leading the discussion. And I think coming back, this idea of rom-com, I think about some of the films that were recommended, and so many of them really serve that. If any of your subscribers watch any of those Sanaa Lathan films, so films like Love and Basketball, Brown Sugar, Something New, like all of that love that you see in a lot of the films that she's in, and she's one of my absolute favorite actresses, that's a bit of a study in this work. I did watch a crazy list of other films for sure. But yeah, a lot of that is in the work. And I think, so I don't really think anything really shifted per se from the pandemic or while we're in this, other than we had more time to find those other elements that you can experience in rom-coms, just find different.
I love that collaborative process. I mean, even if it wasn't necessarily a collaboration in the choreography, I'm sure that
that's there.
Say that again?
That's there too.
Oh yeah. Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. Is it sounds like you included your dancers into your research and into your inspiration, and let's look at films and pop culture and how did that influence the piece. But do you typically, when you're actually in rehearsal, I know you were very lucky that during COVID you got to have a few in-person residencies at locations throughout the United States, bubble residencies, if you will, that were very special and unique. So in those situations, when you were able to come together in person, do you usually like to have the dancers influence the movement as well? Or is that not part of the collaboration?
You know, it depends. Every project is a little bit different, but collaboration is present in all works, maybe in varying degrees. Aside from wanting their input, I always say whenever I'm making a work anywhere, especially when I'm not doing the movement, I have no idea how it feels. So if it doesn't feel good, let's change it. It's not that deep. Like, let's make sure you feel good, and subsequently you will look good when you feel good. Granted, I've said that to like a ballet dancer or two, and they looked at me with a side eye. But yeah, I mean, in this work, I actually started this process. So as we talked about that timeline, in 2018, the company and we were in Finland, I think it was, and I reserved studio space, and I recorded myself doing about 40 minutes worth of choreography for this work. Mm-hmm. And from there, it wasn't until several months later in 2019 when I actually had auditions and hired more dancers and did our first kind of residency for the work, that I started kind of assigning the sections for dancers to kind of learn. Mm-hmm. And from there, that's when a lot more of their inputs started coming in. We changed facings. I then, in some cases, there's one section that you'll see where I asked the dancers to make variations on, you know, another material or on a prompt that I gave. So all that was part of the process. And or when we auditioned people for the piece or for the company, I was starting to make one of my favorite sections. I would say what it is, but who knows what's going to happen with music right now.
I was going to say, do you want to tell us what your favorite section is? Is this a secret?
I wish I could, but like, who knows what's going to happen? It's one of those frustrating things where like D'Angelo himself gave me the rights to all of the songs that I wanted to use. Amazing. But then Universal Music Group, who did not write any of the songs and was not in the studio for any of that process at all, have denied me using one or two of the songs that I really wanted to use. So I don't want to say them because I'd like to think that we're still trying to make that happen. And his team has been supportive in trying to get those things cleared. But it's really insane that someone who is only in something for money is even denying something that they weren't a part of.
The background business details that no one sees, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's sad and really insane.
Well, hopefully that gets sorted out because we'd love to see those sections.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when we're talking about the music, I mean, what inspired it first? Was it the music that you said, you know, you talked about your experience in college in the 90s and the rom-com, and so do you think that the music inspired the movement first, or is it kind of the other way around for you?
It's very much, I think with me, it can be option D, because it's a work where the theme started to form. Mm-hmm. And I needed to spend a lot of time. Granted, I listen to D'Angelo's music all the time anyways, so that's a thing. But when I'm creating, a lot of the times I'm thinking about the order of the songs, which then play out in the order of the sequence of choreography. Okay. But really wanted to think about that, and then think about situations that I was interested in. And so all of that influences the movement. That is generally how a lot of it came to be. I mean, this work is maybe about an hour, maybe just like an hour and 4 minutes, maybe 54 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark. So aside from those 40 minutes that I created, overseas, there was some movement that I was generating with the music right away with the dancers, saying like, okay, stand behind me, let's just catch this phrase, or asking like 4 dancers that I had in a room one day to make a phrase with a very specific prompt. I don't want to say what the prompt is because it will seem, it'll cast a tone on what the dance may be for some, and it's not that. But I gave the dancers this kind of prompt to do something. And so in that instance, I knew what song I was going to put it to, but they didn't. So that's maybe the only instance in this work in particular where the movement is maybe in a fun, tricky way. It's connected to the music, but not in the same way that it would be or is in all of these other sections.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, Kyle, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to give us a little insight about the piece. And we're so excited to have you here. For those who have not gotten tickets, you can go to dancecleveland.org or call 216-241-6000, Playhouse Square. And at this point, we just want to thank you again, and we will see you in a short month. It's coming up. So
Yes.
thank you again.
No problem. Come through, people.
Yeah.